Grown-ups are always saying things were better in the old days, but Greg is not so sure. He likes how his phone lets him avoid people. Most people he knows are definitely worth avoiding. Plus, Greg would hate to have lived before air conditioning or baby wipes. The baby wipes thing surprised me. Greg prefers baby wipes to toilet paper? What about the whole toilet paper story in book 7?
Argo Font Book Review, Argo Font Book Review.
Greg feels like he's been in middle school forever, which is incredibly boring. It's the same old thing over and over again. This part of the book sort of felt like the author was complaining about the premise of the series. Greg spices things up by getting a homework buddy named Fru. Greg is supposed to help the third grader with his homework, but it's the other way around. Fru is a genius who does all of Greg's homework for fun. Greg's grades improve so much that he's put into advanced classes. Now Greg is stuck because he has perfect homework, but he can't pass any tests. This is a drop storyline. We never hear anything else about it. Grandpa moves into the house. Grandpa does not move out at the end of the book, but in future books it seems like he's no longer living with the family, so who knows where Grandpa is? Maybe he's like a Halloween decoration that's only pulled out when needed. In contrast, we know all about the pig's living situation. It's practically taken over the Heffley household, ever since it started standing on hind legs and wearing pants. Mom and Dad are upset when the pig stays out of the house past midnight. Even Cinderella came home by midnight, pig! The boys embarrass Dad in front of Grandpa, so Dad starts cracking down on good behavior. Rodrick's forced to get a job at an ice cream parlor. He has to take out the trash, and things get worse when he's promoted to wearing the mascot costume, which terrifies small children. There's a fun story where Dad talks about him and his best friend fighting bad guys when they were kids. Grandpa tells the real version of the story, which ends with Dad getting spanked by his best friend's mom. Greg concludes the good old days were not that good. Greg tries to get rid of Grandpa by helping him find an online girlfriend. Grandpa finds 50 girlfriends. The family comes home early one day to find Grandpa's throwing a raging party with all of his lady friends and the pig in a hot tub. Dad is forced to punish Grandpa, and he feels really awkward about putting his own father in timeout for bad behavior. In a 46-page story, Mom convinces the town to go electronics free for a weekend. So many people are walking around that Greg and Rolly start a lemonade stand. They mess up in every possible way, like getting the wrong ingredients, using the same glass for every customer, and Rolly wears a diving mask half the time because he doesn't want to get lemon in his eyes. Another kid steals their business by making a much better lemonade stand. They pay him $2 to take it down, but all he does is move it to another place. That is a rip-off move. Greg should demand his money back. Greg and Rolly try selling water at the park instead, but the water is stolen and they are forced to join a park cleanup. Greg tries to escape from work with Fru and a teenager named Billy Rotner. The book treats it like this is a grand jailbreak, when really it's just 3 guys running away from young Girl Scouts. Mom catches them by breaking her own no electronics rule. Now Grandpa and Greg are both in the doghouse with Dad. It's time for them to screw up even more. Greg drops a toothpaste cap down the drain. When Greg messes with the pipes, water gets everywhere. Grandpa takes Greg to the hardware store for supplies to fix the mess, only Grandpa doesn't have a driver's license anymore. He goes down the highway in the wrong direction, the car runs out of gas, and Greg accidentally crashes the car in a ditch. In the final 93 pages, Greg purposely avoids Dad by going on a week-long school trip to Hardscrabble Farms. Greg packs baby wipes instead of useful supplies. All the kids are terrified to hear the woods are haunted by a crazy farmer named Silas Scratch. The food is gross because the farm reuses leftovers constantly. Greg's cabin messes up all the activities. The trust fall is the biggest failure because Rolly's hurt so badly, he's sent back home. Greg doesn't mention it, but the trust fall was doomed to failure. Look at the four guys on the right. They're so far away from the fall area, they can't possibly contribute anything. The other boys get filthy wrestling each other, which is a bad idea because the shower situation is gross. They catch a fish for dinner, only none of them knows how to cook a fish. They hide it in a toilet, which breaks the toilet. Honestly, it's amazing these boys are smart enough to get themselves dressed in the morning. In fact, that was a joke earlier. Greg can't get himself dressed in the morning, he has to follow a list of instructions from Mom. Julian is willing to make himself sick so he can be sent home early. He purposely eats a bar of deodorant. His plan works, but the camp bans all deodorant after that. Now the boys smell awful. Rolly comes back briefly. He helps his dad make a fire, only he uses poison ivy. Both Jeffersons get sent home sick. It's kind of silly Rolly accidentally gets sent home in 2 pages when all the other kids are purposely trying to get sent back home. The deodorant situation is so bad, the boys decide to raid a girls' cabin, only they are morons. So they raid the wrong cabin, and they somehow end up with the underwear bag of the teacher in charge of the camp. Dad is called in as an emergency chaperone. He warns the kids about Silas Scratch's shack in the woods. Greg finds the shack while searching for firewood. It turns out to be a modernized maintenance shed, complete with electricity and a working shower. Dad confesses he found the shack when he was a kid at this camp. He made up the Silas Scratch story to keep all the other kids away, so he wouldn't have to share the bathroom. Greg decides to keep the story going, just in case. The end. Post-book follow-up. This was a really good book. I've enjoyed books like Book 1, which is mostly a collection of unrelated short stories. Now that I've read 10 Wimpy Kid books, I'd say I prefer the books with a theme, like this one, Book 5 and Book 7. Pretty much all the stories in this book relate to the old school title, whether it's Technology Free Day, Old Grandpa moving into the house and finding girlfriends with modern technology, or Rodrick dressing up as an old-time mascot. Okay, that last one is a bit of a stretch, but it kind of fits the theme. The big payoff is the ending, where Dad secretly uses a modern shower. Other books have confirmed Dad is just as much of a wimp as Greg, but it was still a funny, surprise ending. I don't have much to say about this book besides for, it's good, Wimpy Kid fans shouldn't miss it. It's sandwiched between 2 not-so-good books, which makes it stand out more. I give Diary of a Wimpy Kid number 10, Old School, a 10 out of 10.